Welcome to Connected, a podcast brought by you by Nova Economics Club. Where we try to connect economic theory with everyday topics. And today we're going to talk about the housing market and urban rehabilitation. And we are very pleased to welcome Reis today to talk with us about this topic. Reis is a senior technical consultant at the Institute of Housing and Urban Rehabilitation, where he served as president from 2012 to 2017. He was involved in launching urban rehabilitation operations in Alfama and Muraria. He contributed to the creation of Recrea, EIJ, and PER, and helped implement the urban lease reform of 2012. Additionally, he collaborated on the study of 100 years of housing policies. He is a co-author of the influential study, The Real Estate Market in Portugal, which was published in 2022. So, to start with, could you give us a little overview about the housing crisis? So, which elements contributed to this current housing crisis?
Well, first of all, thank you for your invitation. How can I talk about the current crisis? For about 50 to 70 years, Portugal had a trend in the housing policies that trend was based on three major issues: urban expansion, new construction, and ownership. Okay? When you have the subprime crisis in 2007-2008, there was already some problems in Portugal, and that was the moment where things have changed. First of all, all the policy was based on ownership, and the banks were the most important piece because they were financing the housing market. Okay? And suddenly there was no money. So banks stopped making loans. Second, there was a saturation in our housing market. Suddenly we have too much empty houses, okay, and too many buildings that were unfinished. So at that moment, there was a necessity to change all the trends and all the policies that we were following for those 50 to 70 years. There was another problem. The national budget also had serious problems with money. There was no money. Suddenly the financing of the policies, there was a problem on providing the budget means for that. So there was a necessity to change all the paradigm, all the trend we had. Change it from urban expansion to urban renewal, change it from new construction to rehabilitate old buildings, and change it from ownership to rental market. Okay? And there was some laws published in 2006, 2007, 2009, and 2012 that made that change. Of course, you have a problem. You could not finance the public housing. There was no money for that. But there was a curious situation. In a short period of 6 years, the rental market, the number of new houses in the rental market from 2011 to 2017 grew 140,000. Okay? Mm-hmm. It was an amazing number, an amazing situation, a complete surprise. That had to do with the changes that were made in the law for the rental, urban lease, the changes that create confidence in investment. So you had a lot of people that were putting their houses for rental. Mm-hmm. And that went quite well. After 2015, when the government changes and came the government with the Socialist Party, the left government in Portugal, they started reversing the reforms that were made in the rental market. At the same time, they started influencing, giving more priority to tourism. Mm-hmm. To improve the image of Portugal in other countries. So you have a sudden, Portugal becomes an interesting place for investment in housing and in real estate. Mm. At the same time, the European Central Bank, the monetary policy of the European Central Bank, with interest rates negative, made people change their investments to real estate. Because if you put the money in funds, in the banks, you have no profit. Mm. But if you put that investment in real estate, of course you have profit. Mm. So there was a new situation created by low and negative interest rates, a sudden increase in investment, a sudden interest in tourism, and a huge investment, foreign investment in real estate in Portugal. When at the same time the government made the reversion of the rental reform, that creates a problem where simultaneously you have an increase in demand and the shortage in offer. And that's the basic law of a market. Offer and demand. Okay. That's stop working. And so prices jump. And that's the basic of our problem. Okay?
So what you just described,
the main question is, can we really take all the priorities in changing the policies and real making urban rehabilitation, rental market, those things priority or not?
Okay.
And everything is in a mess. And all the context has changes dramatically.
Okay. So what you just described, the influx of foreign investment and the change in policies is like, it's a Portuguese phenomenon, right? Is there anything particular about Lisbon? Because here, I mean, I think we all feel the shortage of housing.
You have a special situation in Lisbon and Porto because you had in the historical center lots and lots and lots of empty buildings and lots of opportunities of investment. Many half of the buildings in the center, in the historical center of Lisbon and Porto, they were empty. Many of them were collapsing, were very, very degraded. So that's another thing that contributes to the influx of investment, because you have really an opportunity. There was an opportunity.
Okay, thank you. That's really interesting. And so, do you believe that this is like the housing crisis, and also the reasons for the recent housing crisis that you just described are particular to Portugal, or are there any similarities between Lisbon, Porto, and other European cities?
There are similarities, but in Portugal we are worse than in the other countries and in the other main cities of Europe. Recently, IMF published some numbers in last January, showing that Portugal, in the pre-pandemic period, which is the last 3 years, from the end of 2012 to 2023, those 3 years, Portugal was the second country in the world where prices grew more. The first country in the world was Israel. The second one was Portugal.
Housing prices or
housing prices. And when you look at the last year, 2020, the end 2022 to the end 2023, Portugal was the only European country where prices continue growing. All the other countries of Europe, prices are going down. In Portugal, they are still going up. And Portugal is the only country in Europe where that is happening. So, it's not the good news. It's not good news.
Okay. So, with that situation...
And with one situation that is an absurd. Portugal is the recordist country in Europe in number of houses per inhabitant. Okay? We have the highest number of houses per inhabitant. 30% of our dwellings have not a permanent use. 30%.
Wow.
Which is 1.8 million dwellings.
Not in use.
Not in permanent use.
Not in permanent use.
Or are empty or are secondary houses.
Okay.
Okay?
Wow.
When you look to Europe, 41% of all the landlords that have a second house, 41% of them rent that house. In Portugal, only 13%. Okay? So, there is a serious problem, a structural problem in Portugal that is related with the freeze of rents for many decades. Okay? And still continuing because the last government kept the freeze of many rents. So you people don't trust on the system. People don't trust in the rental market.
Okay.
As they do in other European countries.
But in your opinion,
and
I'm sorry.
if we have lots of houses,
Mm.
if we have houses that are not in use, if we have more houses per inhabitant than the other countries of Europe, why are we in this situation? Why?
Mm. So now
It's a
coming.
problem of policies,
Yeah.
of course.
That's now a tricky question for you. So, could there be any policies implemented to help solve the problem, or to make people trust more in the renting market, as you said?
You don't need money to solve the problem.
Okay.
You need trust. Every economic activity is based on trust.
Mm.
If there is no trust, it doesn't work.
Mm.
A market to work needs trust. Any one of us, when we travel by plane, we don't choose companies that have problems with the plane. So, sure, because we need safety, right? So, if people don't feel safe, if people don't trust, they don't invest. 80% of the wealth, financial wealth of Portuguese people are in real estate, in their houses. 80%. Many of them have no money, but they have houses. So, why did they keep the houses empty? Why do they prefer to keep a house empty than put it in the rental market? Why? The problem is a problem of trust, safety. For any activity, economic activity, you need trust and safety. If you don't have it, it doesn't work. Of course, there are many other things you can do. You have too much houses in Portugal, so you can improve the use of this stock, of these buildings. In 1.8 million of houses, 200,000 was enough. Everything changed. If we in 6 years, during the crisis, those bad years of the crisis in 2012, 13, 14, if by then the country put 114 new houses in the rental market, why can we do this now? We can do it. You have to change the policy.
Okay.
You cannot keep all the time saying that the landlord is a bad guy. He is guilty of everything. Those people with Airbnb are bad guys. The foreign investment is bad. That's stupid.
Okay.
That's stupid. Golden visa is a problem. Golden visa is not a problem. It's just 1%, 2% of all the market. Is there a problem with such a small scale? No, it's not a problem. Well,
Okay, that's interesting. So, do I understand correctly that like one of the main issues is to make renting more attractive for
Yeah.
landlords to rent out?
yeah, safety,
Okay. Safety and
more attractive,
Okay.
safe. It's a safe business.
Okay.
You have to create a safe business with rules that are not changing every year. That fiscal taxes must not change every year. Okay? They are permanently changing things. Permanently. In one day they say to people, you don't have to get a loan. You use your capital, use your money. Don't make loans. And some months later, they publish a law. All those which are Airbnb and have a loan have a privilege to the others that put the money in the investment. That doesn't make sense. Okay?
Okay, that's interesting. Thank you. And you already, like, now we want to talk a little bit about another issue that might help tackle the crisis, and you already mentioned it before. So what about the importance of urban rehabilitation? Because as you said, there are a lot of empty buildings here, a lot of buildings that are not in use. So how can we foster urban rehabilitation?
First of all, you have to reduce VAT.
Okay.
Okay? VAT is too high for rehabilitation works. Even 6% is high. In many cases, it is 23%. So it's very high. You have to reduce it. Then you have to get some simplification in the licensing of the works. Okay? And then you have to finance and get some help to the investors that put those houses in the rental market. That must be the priority.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. Yes. So the issue is not that much about building new houses, because there are already a lot of houses.
It can be, but the problem is that depends of the places in some places in the country where you need more houses, more new houses than in others. But the main problem is that if you make new houses, what are they for? For rental or for ownership? Because if you make them for ownership, where is the money to buy them? Have the banks the money to buy it? Have the people's the income to make the effort to pay the loan? And by the end, you can be building new houses, and they will keep empty, and they'll stay empty. If you put houses in the rental market, you have a problem, because you have an investment which has to be dealt in the long term, in 20 years, 25 years, to recover the investment you did. So, if you are not trained in your investment, you might have a problem in the meantime. Okay? That's in Portugal. There was a great success with the cooperatives, housing cooperatives. And it stopped when people could not buy the houses, because they were building to ownership, not to rent. The cooperatives were building to sell the houses. And suddenly there was no people to buy houses. There was lots of houses, empty houses. And the cooperatives went bankrupt. Okay? Like many enterprises in the construction sector. Okay? Our construction sector today is less than half that it was in 2007. Okay? The dimension, the volume of enterprises, people working on the sector, volume of investment, we have half, less than half that it was 15 years ago, 18 years ago. Okay? It's not a good news.
Okay, thank you. So to conclude this section or this topic, so like just very briefly, in order to deal with the current housing crisis, we should, or the government should, make renting more attractive and implement policies that make urban rehabilitation more or easier, more feasible, as you said. Like,
yes, more attractive.
Yeah,
yes.
More attractive. Okay. And so maybe we can conclude with one question about the future. Um, so, how do you see the housing market in the upcoming decades? And do you believe that this crisis that we're living in has no return? Or is there hope to, at the end, meet the people's need, the population need for houses?
I think we'll need about 5 to 7 years to change the situation.
Mm.
It will not happen quickly because there is an economic climate, an economic situation in the country that is not helping the real estate business and the housing business. That has to do with the income of the people, with salaries. Okay,
Yeah.
if you improve those salaries, of course, you will improve the accessibility of people to buy a house or to rent a better house. The reason why there was such a big success in Portugal in the 80s and in the 90s, it was because there was real economic growth. There was a real economic growth. The country was growing, the economy was growing, the income of people was really growing. So it was a sustainable situation to improve the housing market, and that helped. I remember that when they published the census of 1991, they were saying that Portugal was in need of about 500,000 houses. Okay, we have a deficit of 500,000 houses. In the 20 years after 1991, the country built 1.5 million houses. Okay, 1.5 million houses. So that's why today we have a record in Europe in the number of houses for per inhabitant. Okay, but we did it. We managed to solve the problem. Now we need to change the trend and the policies.
Okay.
But when some people are saying that the state will solve the problem, that's a mistake. The state has no money to solve the problem. Okay? Some people are saying that we need to increase the public housing sector from 2% to 5%. That means build new 180,000 houses. That will cost 30 billion euros. Okay? The country has no money for that. There is no money. If we manage to make the private sector to work with the state to increase the offer, to reduce prices, okay, that will work. If we say that the state will solve the problem, it will not work.
Okay, thank you. Really interesting. So in 5 to 7 years, with the cooperation between the state and the private sector, there is hope.
You have a problem with PRR, this program that is now, there is too much money for such a short time. It's too much money. We suddenly go from 8 to 80. We didn't have the money, we're not building. Now we have a short time, a lot of money, and we are not going to. It's not possible to build and to spend that money in such a short period. It's not possible. It has to be. You need more time. You need a strategy. They don't have a strategy. It's a mess.
Perfect. Really, really interesting. Thanks a lot for your insights. And yeah, thanks for the conversation. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure for me too.